Yajong, I want to give a content warning for the following podcast episode. During conversations with Ying they shared some personal thoughts and reflections about their struggle with accepting their son's ASD diagnosis. They mentioned episodes of suicidal ideation. I honor their journey and am proud of their strength and bravery to share their story in hopes of helping others who may have a similar experience. Please stay tuned for a follow-up podcast episode to address the mental health needs of caregivers. Ochawa. Hello, welcome to the Let's Talk About Autism in Hmonglish podcast. In the month of September, I was convinced by my husband to do a podcast launch, a virtual podcast launch. And I thought, okay, it's a nice way to get some exposure and, make sure that we get, the podcast out there. And I'm really glad that I listened to my husband in this instance because I got a very nice message from a couple who reached out and said they wanted to share their story. And I was so happy to hear from them because that solidified exactly what this podcast was meant to do, is to reach out to all the Hmong families out there that have a story to tell. The Hmong families who have been processing and trying to see where they're at on their journey, and totally ready to giving them a platform to come on and share, and hopefully their story will inspire others and also encourage others. And today I've invited Ying and Xiong-Hang to join me to talk about raising autism awareness in the Hmong autism community. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you. So, trong share giờ thì hôm nào tàu tuần đó có thả vào podcast nó cho từ mình ở nhà tu nếu mua thì dẫn đi mà thả cho họ journey from the call notice the call the signs of autism until today or a couple of days ago celebrate the call milestone. So, chỉ có nữa là questions and you might take questions có ya.
Yes. So how old is he right now?
Yeah, so right now he's 8 years old.
8, okay. Yeah, so we'll just go ahead and jump straight into the questions if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me a little bit more about him. You say he's 8. I'd love to know like birth order, siblings, what are his interests, and what are some things you guys like to, some favorite shared activities that you guys have with him?
Yeah, so no, yeah, the first child, yeah, the son, the first
Okay.
child. So, the woman are very happy because like for a lot of Hmong families, Hmong couples are like, try so hard to get a kid, but like more kid, so more the first child was very happy, and then from the age of birth to 6 months old, they normally get kids like not that big, they got shot no more, so what you say, yeah. Then we should notice anything difference from birth to 6 months old. But 6 months old to Xiong again they start to learn things like just like normal một kids say you bỏ nhớ tỏ tên là lấy nó mỏ nó thả nó lúa nó. But after that they start just sign one to bỏ more than other kids. So he start interested they start to interest on I think on his spend.
Okay.
Then they start more than they so and spend and start pay attention to your particular activities there, your letters, your alphabets, they're very into alphabets, very into your letters, numbers, and shapes. So they have they start to call autistic journey, the king yeah. Then they start how they each the about them more autism, she might just no more kid. They how I born one day they doctor they he check up like normal kids go check up the doctors.
Yeah, I guess I remember going in for his checkup. I remember, like, they used to give you this paper to fill out, and then you check whether or not they actually meet those milestones.
Yes.
And for us, like, we'll be checked, and then, like, the provider will score at the end, and then they will talk to you about any sort of things that they see that's not within the normal categories of kids. So a couple of the things that they noted are like his social delays and stuff like that, like a lot of like he's not meeting milestones and that he's not able to perform or talk or verbalize a lot of those things that are on those checklists. So that's kind of like, and then like the provider, when they comes in, they will say hi to him, and then he wouldn't respond, he wouldn't care. He will be like reading the signs around the office. So
Right.
that's kind of like indications from, the provider saying that, have you guys take him to be diagnosed on this and that. So that's kind of how the conversation first started off.
Okay. And
Yeah.
how old was he at this point?
I think a little over a year old,
Over a
like,
year.
yeah,
Okay.
a little over a year old. But because it's the first child, so I think that, yeah,
Mhm.
maybe because he doesn't have any sister or brothers to talk to, any kids to play
Mhm.
around, so maybe that's kind of causing the social or the speech delay. Maybe something like that. Yeah, he will catch up when he grow older because he's the first child. So did you want to talk and I shouldn't play any.
Right.
So that's how we
Right.
thought initially. Yeah.
It's not
Right.
just that we thought initially too, because I remember I was in my PhD program and I talked to my advisor, and then, just to kind of share experience and my worries. Maybe she's not even aware of like autism and so well. It's kind of really hard because like some kids, the first child, they're always tends to be a little bit quiet because it's just that piece of like they don't have the siblings to interact with directly, so you never really know whether or not it's sign of autism or it's just more of like a normal process. Yeah.
Right.
So for us, we thought it was just like normal, and
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
when the we take him in to see his pediatrician, start noting those things and start asking questions.
Mhm.
Kind of how we got the ball rolling.
Okay. Tietenly, first minute
Yeah.
you only it's the first time. You don't know
Yeah.
either, right? You're just like, I don't know. This is our first time too, and
Mhm.
we just thought this is how it goes as well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
okay. And you said about 6 months is when you first started noticing some of those early signs,
So from
but
6 months to a year
6 months
old,
on. Mm-hmm.
your other kids, start to learn, start
Okay.
to get interested in here and there, and then so you talk to them, more eye contact, but
Mm-hmm.
they start to do more little over a year old. Nó usually
Okay.
start nó chẳng chỉ một cái months thì nó
Mm-hmm.
usually so they want to no, 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 yeah. But like all of a sudden stop eating this and that, just limit it to certain
Okay.
food, and then you start responding to the rumbe, and then the other
Okay.
signs start to like shut up now. So that's the
Okay.
time that he is 18 months old. But then by that
18
time,
months.
he already the ball in your alphabet started by 18 months old.
Right.
So he can say
Wow.
his alphabet like forward like A to Z, and then
Mm-hmm.
backwards Z to A. So make us say, oh, we got a smart kid, like he's really smart, can
Yeah.
say Z to A. But we didn't know that,
Yeah.
yeah, that type of thing is like giống như nhiều more autism, yeah, so they're smart in a certain
Right.
way, so they can say things that other kids actually like them, yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
you don't know that he has autism, so like, yeah, we got a smart kid, like he's super smart, so we're very proud of him.
Yes. So does he have any siblings? He has two younger sibling, right?
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
sister, the more bao
Okay.
nhiêu apart, so that's why
Oh,
it's
okay.
why and then to play until
Yeah.
một cái chồng đầu hả?
Okay. So he's the older brother. He has one younger sister. What are some things that he likes to do?
So before the sister play opponent play,
Mm-hmm.
he's really into like it's letters, numbers, and shapes and
Yeah.
phonics, and the amount shy YouTube is all about the LBB, just songs about
Uh-huh.
alphabets or about the train when they talk about things, building blocks. So he's all into those, and then at one point, they want to join a ladder so much that I got more water yeah because he's so
All right.
interested to a ladder numbers so we want to check a
Mm-hmm.
more socialize a different area and then he just like created his own way using his fingers to do numbers letters and shape.
Oh, wow. Yeah. He's like, you can take that away from. I'll just create a different way of
Yeah,
accessing that, right?
yeah,
Oh my goodness. So smart. You said you started noticing between 6 months to about 18 months, and then that's when the
yeah,
real regression happened.
yeah.
Now tell me, so he's 8, so 8 years ago, what was your understanding of autism prior to seeing the signs of autism in your son? I know, you spoke with your advisor and they had offered some insight, but like Ying, you said that you used to be a teacher, right? So,
Mhm.
what was your experience with autism prior to having your son?
So like I think both of us for the understanding of autism before we actually know what autism is that
Okay.
그 thing giống như là autism giống như là Down syndrome hoặc như kiện giống như tụi mình nhỏ à nó chỉ giống như là tuổi à
Okay.
chỉ là chỉ hai lúa nó chỉ có hai lúa cho nên mới không hai lúa như mình tuổi à for example word say name tụi mình tuổi thế nào so that's how we thought about autism yeah thì
Okay.
bài if you want to label thì như autistic kid nó cho nó phải cần đợi thì là muốn được cho không những class of all the kids are autistic kid nhá họ thì là you kind of slow pace yeah. So obviously the big picture of autism before we actually know what autism is, they are the
Okay.
Yeah, I think my picture of understanding autism, like prior to having our son, was pretty similar to what Ying was having too. I think
Okay.
my understanding was I thought that it was just more of like a label that put on, kids, yeah, that has mental or physical disabilities,
Okay.
and overall, it's just crazy overall. So that was our initial understanding, and then
Mhm.
this whole process of having an autistic kid, I think we've learned a lot along the way.
Mhm. So then is it fair to say that you had never met any individual with autism before?
I think we met before, but we don't see the positive side of autism spectrum. Yeah, you don't
Okay.
see the negative effect. Like, 俾到mind, 俾到 brain 佢 think 嘅嘢，你有冇做？有冇去播播啊？去播啊？樣。So they can say
Okay.
something what other normal kids they don't say it. They do something other normal kids don't do it. So that's how we see autism. So we
Okay.
born they have, but like I said,
Right.
we don't really care much about it yet.
Okay. So when did you get him diagnosed? Or I guess the question is, so you said that he did the assessment, and then what happened after that?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it was like developmental delay was noted at his
Mhm.
with his pediatricians like very early on. And then well, first of all, the pediatrician referred us out to get to make sure that he's not having like issue with his hearing,
Right.
and all those kind of additional things. And very early, it was it was really hard for them to also test him too because he's so young and like he doesn't do what they want him to do. So it's really
Right.
hard for them to give an assessment. They can't really rule in or rule out whether or not he's having hearing issues or other things. So they had to find a way to kind of have him test and to kind of make sure that he's having normal hearing, which came back normal. But then we also have him assess. Back then we were still in St. Paul, so we
Okay.
have him assessed for the early childhood education because we're thinking about putting him into pre-K.
Mhm.
So we did have him assess as well. So they have their own kind of questionnaires to ask the kids to do. Like they will ask them to like draw a line or draw a circle or draw figures. He wouldn't do any of the
Mhm.
things that they asked. So
How
instead,
old was he?
I think he was like
Yeah,
3.
around 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
3,
Yeah.
yeah.
At this
Yeah,
point, he was 3.
yeah.
Okay.
So he wouldn't do any of the things that they asked, but instead, by then, like, he could read. So he will
Mhm.
read the whole passage to them, and then they were like, "Well, we can't really give him a score on that because he failed the test." So he got a 0 on the test, and they
Oh,
couldn't really assess him because he wouldn't do anything they say. He wouldn't
right.
he wouldn't draw this line, and then he would just, like, do things his own way. So that's kind of, like, how we, uh we kind of found out that there's some sort of developmental delay, and maybe he's just,
Okay.
like, thinking differently.
Right.
So because of that, we did end up getting some help at home,
Mhm.
for,
Okay.
like, through the St. Paul Public School, to kinda help him with those kind of developmental delayed, and that's how, like, they kinda guide us into the next step after he's 3 and, starting preschool.
Yeah,
Okay.
on top of that, thì nữ đứa tôi nữ đứa receive your help where aside your staff to hỗ trợ nha, tôi bán được hỗ trợ
Okay.
speech delay.
Mhm.
Còn nữa, I believe that it's just almost more options. So that's why
Okay.
side team to work on about your speech delay, social development này. Thì to step to thì nữ to work, but they never told us that he had sign of autism because I believe
Hmm.
that autism is an equal topic, very sensitive. Như thì là hay
Okay.
maybe you accept to vậy thì
Okay.
để nó vậy. So lấy bỏ ra sign but they never talk about it. So cái bỏ ra của tôi kia là nó stop responding to the name nó chỉ giống như other kids that was a homie nó chỉ hay mama nó vậy. But he
Mhm.
just dragged our hands to the fridge to open the fridge and
Mhm.
give him milk. So nó chỉ nó cho lùi nó vậy. So totally kind of worried about him and then more autism. And then instead of talking to the doctor and find out talk to people are like what how go try to do behind the scene by work on research, by go on care for my son. So then the Jima label the more autism. Yeah. So I did all the research on Google search, all the YouTube, all the TED Talk, everything. I even go to how autism speaks, I got all
Mm-hmm.
information. I found out that autism spectrum disorder is a lifelong disorder. So there's no cure. And then
Right.
I started, we were jam to me until become normal. A kidney moji doctor or other kids that you feel that okay, this little kid is like not normal or the thing different. Yeah. They
Mm-hmm.
got a lot of stress behind on the finally they decided that let me talk to this staff to see if no more just sign autism 的 kid 呢 then that definitely 你把 sign autism 要不的 kid 呢起码的去 talk because 那个好 sensitive topic 底下的 parents 去 open up 啦，给了去 talk 啦，起码 sense
Mm-hmm.
open up then she would talk about it she recommended us to see a doctor and talk to doctor got referred by 叫 psychologist 来嘛 evaluate 呢 but
Right.
which is still 因为 talk doctor but she is just still 去讲我呀
Okay. So let me see if I understand this. When he was about 18 months, Nepal regression, right? Nuchi, Nuchi Oshin, Nu Hailu, that you knew Hastafla. And then you said around 2, he was getting some in-home services. Um, and is that part of like early intervention? I think you had said a name, but I know in Minnesota it's probably called something different. So he did get early intervention. And during early intervention, they don't require a diagnosis. So you can, if there's just delays, they'll come in and work with your child. So they did. But nowhere during that time did your pediatrician or any of those coordinators say the word autism to you. Is that what you're saying?
No,
I don't
no,
remember.
they didn't say autism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then that led to you kind of doing your own research. Like there's something going on, and
They all
but
research that thing because I don't want people to view my son like he has autism. So I try to find a
oh,
solution
okay,
myself instead of talking to the
okay,
doctors.
oh, okay. So then, 他冇了，只係，可能佢只係到他冇聽呢，佢只冇弄字聽，is that
Yeah,
right?
I
yeah.
think,
Okay.
It can't say that.
yeah, to be honest, I think as parents, I think we're always very fearful of
Yeah.
having a child with special needs, and that's
Okay.
different. And I think we're afraid that if we get him diagnosed, like he might get a label put on him, and that's going to
Mm-hmm.
restrict a lot of things in school wise.
Okay.
So I think we're just being very scared at first.
Yeah. When he was still little, right? Like
Yeah,
Opekyon.
yes,
Yes. But then you're kind of shocked too because you're like, but he can read. He knows the
yeah,
alphabet. New other things, right? Or things
yeah.
that are more advanced than other
Mhm.
kids because 10 months old, the alphabet backwards from Z to A. So,
Yeah, that's
I
when he was
mean,
18 months old.
oh, 18
Yeah.
months. Yes, yes. And right now I have a baby who's almost 18 months and my baby is not saying the alphabet at all. So, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you compare that and like this is doing he's very advanced, right? And so I can see how it can be confusing because you're like, well, he knows this, but then like the social stuff, yeah, I think a lot of parents like, oh, hello, it's okay, go, he'll get there, right? And
Yeah,
so,
that's what my mom said too.
yeah, so okay. And then, so you did consult with your pediatrician a little bit. You consulted with the early intervention clinicians a little bit, right? And then, you were kind of nervous to kind of dig deeper because you kind of had an idea that it could be autism just from your own research, right?
Mhm.
And then you said that sometimes that you were given recommendations and you did not follow those recommendations. Can you tell me more about that?
You could tell.
Well, yeah, we did not follow the recommendation. Yeah, we did in China. So the end, they call urge got one. Yeah, in China, in China, we
Right.
can accept the truth that there little kid the more autism. Yeah, even
Mhm.
though you bảo mình chỉ the more sign autism, you bảo they more diagnose they pretty much like they are 90% they okay got the kid more autism, but
Okay.
we are scared of the truth, accepting the truth that kid more autism.
Okay. So he went through the early childhood program. He was getting ready for pre-K, right?
Mm-hmm.
And remind me again, is that when he got diagnosed? When he was 5?
Yeah, he got diagnosed when he was 5, but before that, we've been through a lot of struggles, and like
Okay.
I talked to Kang, he actually drove us insanely crazy. So we've been
Mm-hmm.
through a whole journey of fighting with autism before we then okay, finally say, yeah, we gotta accept it regardless of the outcome. He autistic แล้วชีเยี่ยวเราaccept เลยกฎนี้ต่อไป
Mm-hmm.
that's the reason okay, finally get him diagnosed. But before that, we've been through a lot of struggles and craziness, which is like we could talk a little more about that too.
Yeah,
Yes.
he
I would
he
like to hear more about that.
yeah. So I just want to say something. So he got diagnosed with autism halfway through preschool. So
Okay.
halfway through preschool was when we finally make a decisions that we're going to sign the paperwork and proceed with the process of giving him like medically diagnosed to see whether or not he has autism. So that's when it happened. But as Ying pointed out, the struggle to get to that point was a very long period of time. And we went
Mm-hmm.
through a lot before we finally accepted the fact that we can't run away from the truth.
Mm.
And we need to find
Right.
out. Yeah.
Okay. Before you tell me more about that, I do want to ask you this one question is, so Nemo had all the professionals, right? The doctors, the
Mm.
early intervention, maybe the school. How about family members? Did any family members did you consult with them? I think a message I mentioned like Ganya, right? Your mom said
Mm.
um, had said something, or her response was to some, about the diagnosis or the possibility of a disability. But yeah, did you guys consult with family members, and what was the feedback from them? And
So
I
my
don't know. I'm
mom,
sure you guys have siblings, and big young families, gay.
yeah,
You more like she so you young shita, right? More she share ideas, or just consult. And of course, I don't know where you fall in your birth orders, but depending, you have to you will seek, advice from your law. So I'm sure there were conversations, perhaps, about anything with those. So what were those conversations like?
you want to first?
So we were living in Minnesota, and my
Mm-hmm.
whole family, majority of my family is in California. So I didn't really consult with them. But I think Yang did do some. We didn't consult with any of our family members. We did kind of like bring up the topic of like developmental delay,
Mm-hmm.
as like other disability, just to kind of like see what the family will respond to it.
Okay.
And then we felt that even if we consulted with them about autism, we wouldn't have gotten the support to get him medically diagnosed. So we didn't
Okay.
consult like fully with them on that.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm saying this is because we did mention that, because of the fact that we are seeing similar, characteristic and similar of our nieces and nephews that are
Okay.
younger than our kids. So we did mention
Mm-hmm.
that perhaps have you ever looked into getting them diagnosed to see if there's any developmental delay? Because with our son, when he was noted that to have some developmental and social delay, we did give him some help, as we mentioned, like at home and so
Mm-hmm.
on. So we did
Yeah.
suggest that to some of our
Okay.
siblings from his side. Their response has been that it's just a process for the programs to get more money, to have
Oh,
like kids
okay.
diagnosed and get more money. So from
Okay.
our point of view, because of that kind of negative response, we didn't really
Mm-hmm.
consult them with like our son possibly having autism.
Yeah. So it wasn't very supportive.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
for my mom, từ mình nhỏ là she chu hai lưu nhá. So my mom said,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he's just the first child, so he will learn. So hai
Right. 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 Oh,
So
yes.
yeah, I grew up with family. Ở bên quần anh là con nhà của chị, của bảo
Okay.
vệ của nephew là so đánh thả. So we
Okay.
didn't really consult like specifically their new autism. Chỉ hỏi là she, bây giờ okay,
Mm-hmm.
nếu she nó mở, nếu giờ he just stop
Mm-hmm.
eating a lot of things, yeah. And then nếu she hay luôn đó thì hey,
Right.
bữa nay có bao cái, hôm nay sai của tụi mình rồi sẽ chẳng nữa, chỉ nó mở, chẳng nữa chỉ hay luôn á. And then they did all they cho hôm nay này à. And they said, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
piece of this and that, and then yeah, do this and that, and they'll nó mở after nó chỉ hay luôn. But he will do his own thing. Nếu chỉ change là nếu chỉ nào mỏ nếu chỉ nào là nhà nó pizza là thế này cái nếu chỉ hai lúa nếu trái yêu tiền một cà mì nếu trái yêu tiền rồi cũng phải nói sao dạ bên một tàu kia if he wants to laugh he just drag bắt tay ra chỉ cho mà laugh he wants to write trái bắt tay mà write ra so he didn't use words so like you don't consult regarding the autism but in the spiritual side đừng có bá tàu but didn't really help.
So Yinko bring up about shamanism, right? I'm just a little familiar with that, but I'm curious to know, and apologies if it's not kosher to ask this, but what was the answer? You know what I mean? Like, what was the recommendation? Like, if you do this, then you might get better. What were those recommendations that were given to you?
So one part that Kunia bring out all the time, even now she still brought it up. It's kind of funny. Cái thời của tôi sister chúng moi kids á, thì gọi thì là tôi rau mỡ from a government from government from the show or my part time nha, chỉ là mua week á, cái nào chỉ mua week á, but that time của tôi nếu phải là tôi from week á, thì cũng khá là joke là tôi mở from not from chữ nha, not chữ gì cho, government cho assistance thì right now á, của chuyên cho thì của tú lo của nhiều mối rõ một phát tài đó nó but my mom keeps saying that I've been saying to my son that nó yêu lòng quá thì của mối rõ một phát tài nữa nó and now I cannot have cho rồi rồi mở đó nữa nó cũng chỉ lấy rõ một phát tài nữa nó and then it's gonna more so she's been doing this and then có một thọ nữa ta là đến work có một thọ ta multiple time thọ nữa multiple time là này nó chỉ rồi
cái bài thọ wig.
No, cũng talk to Sana there. Sorry, I but I did not say that. I haven't said that before. I mean, I'm just saying that. Yeah, you did. You're saying that. Có tụi you lo vậy có món rau mỏ tài nó rồi. Để rau mỏ tài tới giờ bà cho rau mỏ cho weeks này, mình cho weeks này. But she said no. It's like mỏ tài you to king. Like you cannot get rau mỏ from the king. Because I talking like I never said that. I just saying they got wing. They got rau mỏ from our Jew. But my mom keeps saying her own thing all the time to me.
Okay, because she was privy to that information that you once upon a time go halal. So she's saying because you had said that, go you to call by apologizing to your son, and then once you apologize, he will speak. Perhaps go offended into Jubilee. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the response from your family was not supportive. Probably not what you were looking for.
Right.
Especially when it's your first child, so you rely on your elders, your other siblings, to guide you, right? To give you suggestions, to kind of look out for you and say, oh, even you would hope that they would say, that's out of our realm. We don't know, so let's go to the people who might know, which would be your pediatrician. But they didn't say that either. In fact, they discouraged you. So tell me, from the age of 3 to 5, before he got diagnosed, tell me about those struggles. What happened during those years that made it very difficult?
Yeah, so the struggles are like I was talking to King. You want to categorize, right? You want to categorize into two groups. So the first group, their struggles were pretty much directly related to autism. Yeah, they so they are the kid that the body are socially delayed, their speech delay. They are they be Tommy G. They home milk and the child that mama ai có tiền một đợt low fresh một phần sao so we struggling nếu tôi khi struggle chỉ tao mình chỉ bảo kêu how you will struggle there ông trai có thứ bao nhiêu đỡ cái thứ bao hai cái ABC nó cho các chị cái chuyện luôn so you try so hard còn hai luôn sao thì trai còn one of the struggles and then the other one thì cho thì vậy we talk about and then she respond to room so it's so hard how they usually không chỉ mỗi totally a little bit of ý xong rồi new responded to the you hold new you deal more but all of a sudden it just stop and then the stop nó thì can make it hard to know cái đó you hold the stay na you tập bài cái nó chấm hóa thì mà hai luôn nữa you respond to thì họ thì cause coi cái doctor thì tiếng cái đấy cho nên nó luôn
right
cái doctor thì ước cho cho music chỉ nếu như nói là yeah we got check anyway thì muốn start bài because I think because the more autism, then you got anything kind of bunch na. So the
Sure,
more
yeah.
the more the picture or you got anything kind of bunch na. You got anything young ton of bunch. So it's very hard for the medical team to diagnose the more hearing impaired. They watch down
Mhm.
from the regular checkup, watch down the more refer to the next one, the one that more advanced technology, làm sao này chỉ work hàng anh chỉ cả qua thì với
Mhm.
cái bài sau cho cái này 我จะ làm rồi là test your hearing hay là delete okay yeah we think that 嗰度 kid 啊你只摸睇明到個 hearing 啊或者 just get part of it not a whole complete assessment yeah but get part of it
Okay.
so that yeah 都只摸thì but hai không nữa from the chain thì yếu tố test yếu tố king because they cho anything 呢幫 chain 都 test 呢muốn cho yếu tố
Mhm.
or quiet and then because they're so into the R&B songs, we gotta
Mhm.
turn on the song a little bit, just tiny bit, or then on a bit.
Mhm.
Actually, will turn anytime you do the song and you turn yeah, in the turn, that means the energy lunch yeah. So it do
Mhm.
that way, and then it test that way again. You turn every time we want, and you turn the link, but you respond to the bass, you get okay.
Right.
You can be relaxed with that on low, yeah. Because one of
Okay.
the struggles. The other one was the little trainer, right? Pretty much everything except the cần thơ cho cởi này cho any academics related digital training
Mhm.
but other than that like you can name anything like you trained by Georgie cho cổ yeah. Like I
Yes.
think like my niece and nephews they trained at the học sĩ không ná they just know how to go pee how to go poop but my son they trained at about pee yeah nên chỉ pee only ra nên chỉ poop
Mhm.
they don't train poop separately and then
Mhm.
một thằng một cho nó yeah they hay thế okay mà có thì lấy tan thọ nào yeah and that became the standard. So every time the bush hona, you know, they we have to retrain him that no, you don't need to take all the good tantona. So we train everything, we train the no more, and it's about no more. So the ตัวเดียวในเฉพาะตัวเดียวนะมันจะ model skill ชีวิตตรงเลยอ่ะจะ train ตัวเดียวแต่ก็ตัว
Mhm.
เดียวเนาะก็ชีก็ของเจ้ามันก็ชีก็จะดิ้นเจ้าแบบโม้อย่างหมอ but he still use his teeth to just โม้อย่างหมอนอกนะ and then
Okay.
Nichika holiday, Nichika one like everything that you train. He doesn't know how to suck from the straws. He doesn't know how to blow his nose. He doesn't know how to spit anything. So the good thing about 只包 spit thing 其實你冇錯，你好啦，原來只包 spit 但係你好。
Okay. Right. So, yeah, so yeah, things that you do work on is those social skills, those, daily living skills. So
Yeah.
you guys had to fill in that gap. But I'm curious to know, did early intervention not provide support to teach those
Yeah,
skills?
let me go back to the struggles because
Oh,
I said
okay.
that you have two categories. So first
Mhm.
category is relate to autism. Second category is
Mhm.
the ขอ affect 到在 in regarding 的điều là điều kia đến autism yeah. So
Okay.
like I said earlier, they are insane crazy because they are back at that time Kang stole một PhD program. So uh, your family members rồi lấy chỉ cho ba cái rồi mình nhỏ ha là only rõ thôi absolutely
Okay.
cứ nghĩ sai rồi. So still younger at that time, so we don't
Mhm.
spend money đâu ha thì pay sau daycare. So that means
Right.
we'll have to have like a chef or tàu thay thường sẽ đủ kia nè. So I work
Mhm.
overnight vào lúc đó chị á thì lúc đó chị sáng早thì can by school can so chị cũng hỗ lực nè. So
Mhm.
can á cái kia là the tàu time bự so I think the teacher affect him much but affect a lot because cái tàu in lúc tàu bự like a couple hours nè. And then come
Yeah.
over is on a couple hours nè. And then sometimes because cái kid that time each story about the more autism for sure yeah. But I think because of his autism and chỉ more attention to sáng cho YouTube thì videos á cứ allow nó more screen time because that's the only choice này cho nó sáng screen sáng YouTube and then I can have a couple of hours sleep so that's the only
Mhm.
choice này chỉ một choice thôi and then đầu tư cho video này play một cho advertisement á thì nó qua á cho advertisement anytime saw advertisement he was just
Mhm.
cry and cry and cry yeah just skippable I was just skipping for him and then I would speak problem and then cho nó skip tao á thì I will let the play guitar á thì he's crying the whole time cho người ta and sometimes cái TV á nó chỉ frozen nó nhỏ nó chỉ có
Mhm.
and then he cry until I fix it and several times I just so struggle and so frustrated and then gallery more quá thì cũng đi chọn gallery more cũng trong tê số floor ha like thinking back about it was so mean but that time like cũng so struggling so frustrated I should bảo dài nè
Mhm.
也古伊莫能莫中给我说，for 但是他也古莫没法讨给他也推多给噻，so
Yeah.
yeah you can cry all you want begin the course huh? So just to be honest I destroy remote like nearly 10 remotes because effect it out from Hanaya and then the last time I stopped destroying things like go destroy TV huh? Hoặc là go cooking for go they nửa gáo thì lúc remote TV là nửa sai TV là hey can you wait for me của chuyện need to cook là cũng work and he's crying anytime anything you chỉ what the nửa sai and cry maybe because of autism maybe because he allowed too much screen time and then he cried and then we chẳng có remote cũng tới tê của TV thì tới kia and then this one time that I don't remember exactly what happened but you are able guitar because I know how to play guitar and both play guitar chỉ usually guitar it is real guitar it's not toy guitar it's real guitar
For him?
yeah for him and then that one time I think he wanted to play or something and the guitar was on the floor and they just cry or something like cry and cry and cry của both đó của chẳng có guitar của smashed on the floor tê guitar tới anh thôi and go open the door just toss the deck and the next day then moved outside and play guitar too broke mà cũng có trong ta so after everything calmed down I was just like crying like why I did all this thing rightอยากบอกน้องI'm sorry kid I'm sorry แล้วก็ให้ sorry ไว้สั่นจะ yeah next time I'll try to be a better father กูบอกว่าดูตั้งใจกับช่วงนั้นก็อยากกูช่วงนั้นก็จริง but next time they cry again I got the same struggle I got the same frustration and then I keep doing things again repeat the same thing again and then to a point where I was sitting down like I kid came to school yeah was sitting down on the couch and cái lon chơi của nó chơi của với normally nó của she nó chơi của tao không nó móc cái tao của tao không yeah he is like he's a kid he doesn't know anything he is naive he is like innocent like why I did all these things and then I just cry like kiểu có muốn lo sao because I did all the things just to help you and then like nothing get better and at one time like của vậy cứ thâu tại của do cho nên mong nghệ cho đá vậy but I just say Jesus bác của they can't do this on my own anymore Jesus help me and cứ có khó nè so instead of doing research how to help my son I do research how to help myself to become a better father
Right.
so I listen to all TED Talk to parenting do all the Google search how to be a good parent so I asked myself several times like cũng be a good father but every time I ask myself I said yes I am a good father but more just struggle nó là challenge nó cũng more frustration nó cũng đi nó and sometimes King ask me like why do you do that I say yeah because it's so frustrated I rather just destroy remote than slap my son or do something else or kill myself you know so yeah a lot of crazy thing
Yeah, it's stressful. And especially if you're trying to exist on very minimal sleep too, right?
yeah
From the go work third shift and you guys were trading off. So
it's not just a shift but overnight 6 p.m 6 a.m
right, yeah. So and then you go, you're trying to sleep, but you can't, right? Because you're
yeah
trying to watch him too. So it definitely impacts you. And it's actually fine though, if you don't have that outside support, and it adds up. And how many years were you doing this cycle where you were not receiving support, but you were also working third shift, like about 2 years during that 2-year period?
it's the whole time
The whole time, yeah. It's
As we grow older,
stressful.
thì được tao more how thì you should struggle. But when he was young, right before I knew my diagnosed him autism, so we really struggle. Sometimes it happened to King too. Like we just wish like, "Ôi trời ơi, chỉ muốn tôi normal kid, and the chicken đỡ cái liền." So we did talk like, yeah, we wish that tôi normal kid and chicken đỡ. We will deal with the education part as long as he's normal. And the
Right.
other times, like, yeah, we are so lucky that we have smart kids. So and
You
sometimes,
feel
yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say you feel conflicted, right? Because you're
Yeah,
like, it's your basic things know what you thought, right?
yeah.
And so yeah, it's tough, and I'm sorry that as far as just even understanding what level of support you needed, because a lot of times more a disability or more autism, they even I would say even the providers, we focus on the child, that sometimes the parents get forgotten. you guys need support too.
Yeah.
And so I will say, as a field, for what I do, we definitely have incorporated caregiver training, because we realize that's a vital part, right? Like, if we just treat the child and not the parents, then when they come home to you guys and you don't know what to do, well, that's a disservice to the child. So I'm sorry to hear that time was it was rough, and
Sometimes like you wish that like not at the same time, but sometimes say I just wish that you just disappear from lúc đấy nó, and sometimes King just like I wish that this someone KO like các xã quân chua sometimes you just say no so có anh chua có happy like you just told you the king and I was so frustrated but thì you hay nói tổng chỉ là đừng do chuyện xảy ra giờ thì hay nói cho people rồi but I was like you actually think that maybe just easy way out like it's more use so to that point until we actually come to the final decision that one thing that no say accept regardless of the result and the outcome
right. I mean, it sounds like you guys were pretty isolated from your support system, and you right? They make you feel like you're making things up, or you're seeing things that don't exist, and you're going, no, this is our life. We're experiencing it every single day.
Yeah, I think I remember one time, because I did bring it up to family members that, our son's crying, having issues, he's frustrating. And then it's always been like, well, maybe he's doing all that because you guys are probably teaching him.
Yeah.
So they're
because
probably like,
you're doing what?
He's doing all those because you guys are teaching him. So it's more like, and then like that kind of brings us to question, or the fact that are we really bad parents, or is that why like he's doing all these things? He's not like talking normally. He's not being able to express himself. He's not being able to manage a lot of like his angers and stuff. Is that like because we're doing that and he's seeing and mimicking like our behavior? So at one point in time, we're questioning whether or not we did something wrong with him.
Right. We have to think about, like as parents, based on mental health, we have to get that in check, right? So that we can only function well and be the best parents we can be when our mental health, our physical health, our emotional health, all of that is that we have a good balance. So, Ying, I'm sorry to hear that. Gosh, third shift can change you a little bit, right? Because you're existing like and then in the daytime you're like a vampire. You need that sleep, and so it does something to you biophysically, y'all. And then on top of that, you want them to roommate and you rely on you, and then on top of that, you want higher needs, right? Or do for himself. So I can definitely see how that was a really tough time. And then, like you said, you had that moment of clarity where you're like, I need help, right? I need help. And then you guys went and sought that diagnosis. And you said that was at 5 years old. And was that from his pediatrician or from the school?
So when we finally accept that we gotta find out what the outcome is, then they muốn cho là the pediatrician talk refer by cho Lewis specialty or diagnose.
Yes.
So at that time, là more refer more cho children's hospital nhớ đâu in St. Paul. Thì còn tận rồi họ như pre-screening times before by the Lewis specialty or Fraser. So thật là mất sang nó đại children's hospital thì là pre-screening and they can just talk this morning like they know the history, your family history. They talk about the condition of the kid, and then they talk about the nhân nó chỉ là at that time in chỉ nó quan trọng nha thì là một thấu từ quan trọng nữa để nó nói khỏi lên được bóng hỏa so that được bóng hỏa chỉ cả sống đó but he was crying big time thì được đó nó có tàu ra so bóng hỏa doctor you did it let him eat it sau đó có phải là phải other game giống như nó một kia như là bóng hỏa thì nữ thức cái này là chỉ cả nói but my kid was like I'm gonna eat it nó mới được what so thì nó thì lại cho nữ bài qua là khỏi pre-screen ta thì nó talk này as a parent thì tiên cha khỏi history của cha thì cái là trai này trai bao khỏi truth thì nó more autism cái cho stop talk ở đây be more discussion ở đây and then lỡ đâu là coach as parent thì we guys should be okay because they process mỗi家là coach through the process how to diagnose here either diagnose the more autism it call just result 有家了 clear 的要的就 can diagnose the more autism then it help from a school or other social services and the help is meant to find your weaknesses so they totally different from the autistic kid 这了要没有多用做这了就要把那个more than other autistic kid 个了global case right the picture is totally different 了到 clarify the picture 要 remind the autism 容易讲 and then after that it really accept when I sign the paper then okay yeah go ahead and diagnose but before that even though it open up it should still then try diagnose until your psychologist, the doctor, specialist, another talk in person. They have to calm us down. They have to say that your kid has autism, but he's on the smart side. So nếu cho được một diagnosis người ta more hope instead of nếu try to find chuyện này bắt lại nữa.
So during this time, so you guys were in Minnesota. Nipanji, any clinicians in Hmong that could help you to understand about the diagnostic process or anything about autism?
No, chỉ là cái tàu after her pre-screen là một sample Fraser, ya lose specialty là diagnose cho gồm nhiều autism ya. Này là sao bài là cái một cho khi một school khi chỉ bảo cho cái kim autistic autism ya. But I dealt a lot with him cho nên phải feeling clinic nó có ý bảo cho other kid hoặc là more autism là function sao của son so it made me happy that my son is on the smart side and then cứ cho phải cái do all I can to help him become better cho I think the needs so at the time like really happy cho nên phải diagnose stuff Fraser and then lúc đó phải it take about hours and then the G của là that yeah có được nhiều nó nếu mà autism go through all the questions like your diagnosis go through all the questions all the tests and say yes your son has autism but các đồ son nó có IQ nhá very high so at that time I believe like 90 something percentile and that made me happy that yeah he just needs help on the social part that speech part nó yeah so we just like thôi là diagnose tao nó thì mấy thọ tao help mà mấy thọ cái phá đâu nữa.
Okay. Did he ever have ABA?
What's that?
ABA therapy. Yeah, applied behavior analysis. I'm curious if during early intervention or even after the diagnosis, the Fraser, did they prescribe ABA services for him?
No, là chỉ
Okay.
tiếng chỉ mà là muốn cho reference để nó talk ở mình thì case manager and the case manager mà đi báo but COVID hit got time nữa
Oh no,
so yeah
yes.
so usually yeah we
Everything was on pause, huh?
yeah you can get the case manager even though even chỉ lại là chỉ sao cần phải contact nó cho the people because like COVID is so scared at that time no vaccine it's so scary you rather throw the child than you lose the child because of COVID so we didn't do any other things besides schooling
So I'm just curious to know then what kind of therapy or intervention did he receive? Speech therapy, occupational. Go ahead. You mentioned feeding clinic. So what assortment of therapy did he receive after the diagnosis?
The feeding clinic because then the nó more stop eating they need to directly refer more to feeding clinic and before pre-COVID easy to get in like chỉ sát phải là chỉ là vì cái thứ ở chỉ đi tàu phải ra họ thì chỉ mua đi mua vậy là chỉ mua restriction tàu vậy chỉ đi tàu phải so we work done tàu like couple months or thứ cho học point one từ chuyện nó mở ra nên có bị hết kia thì bây giờ chỉ phải là hiện tại bây giờ phải để họ stop from here chỉ bắt được nó mở but other thing can we talk about other thing
yeah so when he finally got that medical diagnosis, we reached out to the school because obviously he's going to preschool at that time. And it was during middle of like preschool, but then they are moving toward virtual learning because of COVID.
Right.
So it didn't really get much help that much. I mean, for autistic kid, they don't follow whatever thing that they tell them to do, and it makes it harder too to do it virtually.
Oh yes,
with the thing. But I think at school he's getting occupational help. He's also getting some speech therapy help. He's also he got a caseworker and then like a whole pretty much team. I can't remember all of them, but like a pretty much a whole team to kind of help him along those process. So when we first started this thing, like he will meet with them like virtually during that time, and then they will walk through the things. They will start to kind of like pick up what he's like strong in, so that they could ways for him to kind of communicate, so he will understand. So that
Okay.
was initially the start, and then when he went into kindergarten, the very early of kindergarten was still virtual
Yeah.
because of COVID again. But
Right.
then when they went back on site, and he got onto like the one-on-ones with his whole team, I think he made a lot of improvement with that.
Mm-hmm.
So they were able to find ways to make him understand and to communicate. Because he relies a lot on like letters, writing, and just like that kind of writing process. So instead of like them talking to him, like what we're talking right now, they would
Mm-hmm.
just write a story and then he will read it and then he will do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's kind of like the first thing that they did was like to kind of figure out how they're gonna communicate with him. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that kind of helped a lot with like the whole other process.
Yeah. So using social stories, right? Because that's
Mhm.
his strength.
Yeah.
So no, that I love to hear that. Um, and I will say, I'm really surprised that he did not receive ABA any time before, or even now. He's never had ABA therapy.
I don't think so.
No
We
law.
never heard
Okay.
of that term. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
never been
Okay.
here, so probably not.
Right. And I guess that's where I come in. I go, you know, um, I would say as soon as you know, more any signs or any delays like that. Of course, every state is different. Okay, I think we were all learning that as I'm speaking with various parents from different states. I'm going, oh, some states are a little bit more proactive. 18 months. They're like, oh, here we go. Here's early intervention in the home, 40 hours. And then maybe some states are not as proactive, and they rely on the parents to be the ones seeking out services, right? Or maybe the wait list is so long that they don't get to everyone, or maybe I don't know. Everybody just runs their programs different, but it does make you wonder: what if Tonu first got you first had concerns with the pediatrician for 18 months when he had the first initial assessment where Nichika, he wouldn't let them like put anything on his head or anything. What if somebody at that point had said, hey, let's get him into ABA, let's get him into early intervention, because early intervention isn't just ABA, it can be floor therapy, right? Or foreplay or play therapy, something, right? Or maybe he did have some, but maybe it wasn't intensive enough for his needs, right?
Yeah.
What difference that would have made in that 3 to 5 year gap for you, Ying? Maybe if you had support, and maybe when you got home, and Kang went to school, but you had someone over to spend that time with your
Yeah.
son, for maybe 4 hours a day, and maybe during that time go nap minji, right? And that's okay as long as you're there and what if you had had that for 2 years? Maybe you wouldn't have gone through kind of the struggles that you had as well. So I'm really disappointed that the system kind of failed you guys. That's a
Yeah.
big statement I'm making,
Mhm.
and I'm realizing that. But I would say, looking at how other models are structured, like, and of course, I do wonder then, was that part of also your fear of getting him diagnosed, that you were like, we'll just deal with this on our own. We'll figure it out. And so you weren't also seeking out that support either. Like, maybe the support was there, but you weren't seeking it out, or maybe the support was lacking and you needed help, but you didn't know how to, ask for that help. Like, I don't know. Like, when you guys talk about, the fear of accepting that your son has autism, it was very real. Where to the point where you guys were talking about, taking your own lives, because maybe
Mhm.
that would have been easier. And I'm really sad to hear that, when I think, gosh, if there was just one family member or one professional that had known that that was the struggle you guys were going through, all they had to do was get some paperwork together, and
Yeah.
someone could have provided service to you guys to help you,
Yeah.
to bridge that gap, because you know autism is not something to. It is stressful, right? But you more the right supports, the right level of supports for
Yeah.
you as a parent and as your child. Um, you will see that he has so much potential, so much gains,
Right.
and that's our job, is to come in and help him to unlock this potential, and then also to show you guys how to do the same thing. And I'm just very sorry to hear that during those years, and this was only in the last decade
Yeah.
that seemingly the system failed you guys, but
Yeah.
you are on the other end of it now. You guys you got him diagnosed. He's in school. He's 8. And then he also, I guess, did you have your daughter before you left Minnesota?
Yes.
Yes. So he has a sibling. How is he as a big brother? Nghe bạn was yeah.
I think new to little sister and really to her I do normal kid typical normal kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If this play she has common sense. No ball hay something like other kid hay is or no friend right.
Mm,
She can be a friend with anybody just in a few minutes. You know when she do the
right.
other kids like
Yep.
5 minutes ago the point to tell she next
Yeah.
time like she able to meet a friend like all
Yeah.
this time she meet a friend yeah. Với rủi ro là sao?
Yeah.
Like, she can go anywhere, be friends, she can talk, she can eat anything we eat, pretty much anything we
Mm-hmm.
eat, and she eat this nè. So, if
Mm-hmm.
she remember the ito I work hard on to daughter and then
Right.
at one time we talked to the doctor that ito sa tao she normal hoặc the ito tuổi the daughter normal and other say like how do you know that she's normal? But I was like, oh, because she's like other kids like the kick up or the high low, the low, the what
Mm-hmm.
she's stand looking, she respond a little bit. So I think she's normal. Yeah.
Right.
Thì,
Yeah.
còn tao nữa tôi, sister thôi á vậy I think, until not until, she was like 3 or 4 years old, nhưng mà báo đầu tôi, sang play á.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, before that, like, he was very lonely, bố quá chị á. Và thở từ đó
Yeah.
mình, little older and bố play á. Thì,
Mm-hmm.
I think that to son to start, to socialize. Well, of course, start your help from school ha nhỉ? Thì,
Right.
thì ba người, bố play nữa to a sister, and then
Oh,
they
yeah.
start do pretend play. But before that, he didn't do any pretend play. He didn't do any imaginary. But I don't know. It's a play and it's a pretend play. So I think
Mm-hmm.
engaged to sister to brother, not to play. Yeah. So now
Yeah.
I would say that because all the helps we receive through schools and more to second child help a lot.
Mm-hmm. Good. So I'm curious to know, so he's 8. Have you ever spoken with him about, his autism? Do you guys talk about it? And especially with sister, you notice a difference, right? Like,
Mhm.
sister has a lot of friends. She likes to play. I do not. Like, do you guys have those conversations with your son?
Yeah, so we just recently have that conversation with him. He was actually the one to bring it up, and we never
Oh,
really
wow.
thought about having that conversation with him until
Mm-hmm.
his case manager was talking to Ying the other day, actually just last week,
Yeah.
and then
Mm-hmm.
the case manager did ask that question about like, have you ever tell your son that he has autism? And then
Mm-hmm.
that we never really thought that we're gonna tell him because we're like we don't want him to
To
feel
know. Yeah.
different, to know and feel
Right.
different or any of those things. So it was just recently that like he told us that he's different.
Okay.
So we asked him like, what made you think you're different? And then
Mm-hmm.
did people say something to you or someone? I think like kids
He said he's
as
not normal.
they get he's not normal.
Yeah, he said he's not normal. And
Yeah.
then
Okay.
chạy ta liền á.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
okay.
like we recently
Hmm.
just moved to Michigan. He started the new school, so it's always that fearful of being like the new kids are they
Right.
going on at school and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to like tweak stuff out of him. But I think the overall thing is that he is starting to know that he thinks differently than other kids. So he was the one to actually ask us that questions that he's not told us that he's not normal.
Right.
So we did have the conversation with him that he has autism, and that was
Mm-hmm.
a while back. We didn't really tell him straight out away. We kind of like we just write out. We're just like let's talk about this topic, and then we talk about like the positive component of it. It's just like kids, they just think differently. It doesn't mean that they're dumb. It doesn't mean that they're inferior. It just means that their brain is perhaps structured in a in a different way. They just think differently, but that doesn't
Right.
make them any less inferior. And then we talk about like some of the characteristic and so on. And then at the end, he even told Ying, he was like, "So that means I'm autistic?" And then we're like, "What if we told you that you have autism?" And then I
Mhm.
think he takes it in a positive way
Okay.
when we approach it from the positive side of it.
So initially, the Uchi was Uchi aware that you need to talk to him. The other thing is like we don't know when it's appropriate to talk to a kid that he has autism.
Sure, yeah.
And then the other thing is that we don't know how to approach. We are not expert in
Mhm.
that area, so we don't know how to approach. And so we high get them autism, and all of a sudden you scared, you want anything, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's autism actually, but like we don't know
Right.
how to approach. We don't know when it's appropriate until like somebody say that. Have you ever talked to him? Maybe you got talk to him. Yeah, oh yeah, because I have autism. This is why I go to or not. This is why they think different. So that like
Mhm.
triggered. Yeah, it probably is the time. So we approach by want to talk to our topic and then talk about the characteristics or the more yeah, like
Mhm.
I don't the background change the boy see how we responded to it and then
Mhm.
the positive respond the positive side and then we
Yeah.
like okay now we can fully discuss autism then we can fully say that you have autism and he's just like yeah I have autism and I'm different.
Yeah, I
Oh.
think the day after we talked to him about it,
Mhm.
he went to school and he told his case worker that he has autism. So she
Uh-huh.
asked him, she was like, "So, what do you know about autism?" And then like he gave her the whole lecture of how
Yeah.
so I think in all, I think it's sort of um, probably give him the solution that he's kind of looking for because he started to notice
Mhm.
things differently.
Mhm.
You know, like
Mhm.
all the questions, people responded in a very normal way. Ying could give you that example in a little bit, but the other kids will respond in a very normal way, and then his
Yeah.
thinking will be like a little bit different. So I think in all, like with us telling him recently, I think that kind of is more of like a solution to whatever thing that he has going on in his head.
Yeah, and so as he grew older and he started curious about the king the kids around
Mhm.
there. So one
Mhm.
fear that he always more idea that yeah, what if you know the so the look yeah, or how much pull out class or the kids and the chimo hot feeling
Mm.
long to how a all the kids
Right.
while the kids they stay in the class the whole time, but he got
Mhm.
when here and there and have many teachers. So that's like when it's a good time to tell him, it's a good time to address that. So we glad that the delete yeah, okay, I'm not normal and I initially is scared when she one we have to have go on she wanted that yeah, I just know it. So okay. The time that he realized like the self aware that the king 找人呀 so
Mhm.
一個 example 在 school 呢度 members staff member 呢度 define seasons. So I think that the thing had the normal kids when so talk about the seasons like summer, winter, fall yeah. But my son was like, okay, it's winter because Lu to tell a certain way and then looks like she reached that yeah. And he got no that's winter. Well, they was like, yeah, your thinking is like at a different level. You are not
Yeah.
you're not wrong, but you're not answering the answer like we looking for like summer, winter. But you're saying because the
Right.
earth tell in a certain way and 知道长度听得懂，I think you are winter. Like that is like very awesome, right? His thinking is at different level.
Yeah, so you mentioned that he gets pulled out. So I'm curious to know what is his I'm assuming he has an IEP and how what is the percentage that he's in a mainstream classroom and then the percentage where he's pulled out?
So in the past, we always even now we always 找到 good feedback 的那个我用那个 progress
Mhm.
like improve a lot. So each time 每个月 so 你 milestone 呀 so
Okay.
we slowly see 那个 how much take away because 你 milestone 呀
Right.
那个 eligible for which is the good because our goal is not like put in a special program and gonna continue
Mhm.
to do that. Our goal is 我们做好可能把人 and slowly 把人
Yes.
component 嘛 take away yeah. So you meet a milestone at a time, slowly meet all those. And recently, the matter the high and she eligible for scholarship program. The high they
Mhm.
meet all those milestones, which is like we're very happy about that. So
Mhm.
Yeah, I think when he was first diagnosed, when we got the diagnosis and we started the process, back when he was in preschool, I think
Mhm.
he was getting pulled out pretty much like every day. I can't remember exactly how many minutes, how many hours
Oh, sure.
exactly, but he was getting pulled out a lot
Okay.
during those time. And even when they went virtual, he was still having to like log in during that time
Mhm.
so that he could work with them.
Mhm.
When he went to kindergarten, it was pretty consistent, every single day as well for, different all quarter amount of time that they have per his IEP plan. And then
Mhm.
as he moved into the first grade, as he's meeting those milestones, they're slowly letting him go because he met those milestones. He doesn't need those help anymore. And then he went to second grade, and then was slowly reduced at to the point in which he finally was able to tell them that he doesn't want to get pulled out anymore because he wants to do what other kids are doing. So now that he started third grade, it was just a couple days ago that we did an exit from like the special ed for him because they say that he still have some delay, but not significant delay that will they think will interfere with him doing well in class. So
Mhm.
at the moment, moving forward, he's not gonna be in the special ed anymore, but they're still gonna help him and just
Mhm.
like assess him to make sure that everything's kind of still going well
Yeah.
before they totally let him go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the past when he was younger, the teacher, you back home all the time in our classroom. Yeah, but sometimes you about sometimes you scream, sometimes
Mhm.
cry, or the playing games, chỉ riêng cái đó, then you cry, or sometimes
Mhm.
finish a task and then move on next task, and he's crying, so the teacher got
Right.
nữa. But like a couple of days ago, our last meeting, the teacher, yeah, the teacher actually noticed that he autistic kid, yeah. In the
Mhm.
more meeting, yeah, so autism, she will never notice the other sign and the more autism. But
Mhm.
that doesn't mean they are more autism well, because like I
Right.
said, autism is a lifelong disorder, but they're able to through your help through school and your social
Mhm.
services through school, they're able to advocate for themselves, both communicate, both socialize, 容易 with your peers. Even though he still have autism, but he
Right.
can be the true himself vào từ vào tàu cho dạ ở từ mà kids vào tàu thế này.
Right. He's able to learn there's coping skills, right? The
Yeah,
appropriate coping skills and
yeah,
understand the social norms that sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and that's okay. But yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad to hear that academically he's doing well, you know. Yeah, gosh, what did my friend say recently? Hindsight is 2020. But yeah, if you could go back and say, gosh, if we just gotten support, May and teach those gross fine motor skills, teach him those social skills, those uh, the things that other than academics, how much further could he be now?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you wouldn't have had to struggle those years, to call. He would have been self-sufficient and been
yeah.
able to do all those things. But I'm glad that Nunone wanted a story to share so that, if there's another family out there that's kind of going through similar struggles, that they would know that, we don't have to struggle just because
Mhm,
wherever you are, because we don't have the support, we don't know that we have support.
mhm.
Because, like you said, sometimes the inside, your family is your source of support, but sometimes they also don't know either, right?
Yeah,
So you have to look outside of that. So sounds like school's going well for him, and that's exciting that he's kind of, uh, not needing that extra support at school. So tell me, what is your biggest worry for your son now and in the future? What is your dream for him in the future? And what is your plan to achieve it?
So, our biggest worry for our son has always been whether or not he's going to be able to advocate for himself. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why we work so much in going through this whole process and work so much with the school just to make sure that, his IEP plan previously will help him so that he could proceed and get to the point at which he could advocate for himself. So that's always been kind of like our worries for him. But from talking to his team at school during his special ed exit thing,
Mm-hmm.
we it seems like he's able to advocate for himself. He's been able to tell them
mhm,
when he doesn't want to do certain things. He's
Mm-hmm.
being kind of like talking to people, starting to make friends, and all those things. So that kind of like help calm our worries a little bit.
mhm,
So I think that was the main thing that we're worried about him. Moving forward, I think our biggest dream for him is always kind of be more of like in the future, being able to do the things that he loves, and also be able to advocate for himself, be independent without us, and pretty much just like a strong foundation to do whatever he wants to do in the future.
Yeah. So on top of that, I think that a lot of parents with the kids, the more autism, even though some talk on YouTube, they brought up a question, right? They call it the question that chỉ một cuộc kỳ na của tôi mình nhỏ chả. That's the
Mhm.
story của mua hả. So I
Yeah.
think throughout all the social service, the whole through schools, and of course we were a lot of help. I
Mhm.
think all these answer that question like chỉ một cuộc kỳ na của tôi mình nhỏ
Mhm.
survive. So before this, it was like how could của tôi mình survive? Chỉ một cuộc kỳ. So I think
Mhm.
there's a big part of the worries 不more呀，they contribute yeah, he can hide Lisa 可能要一度那个劳动部 he still smart as he can 天然后 be able to work with other people yeah doesn't matter the end smart work yeah can work with other people probably need to be successful yeah so you want to be like academically successful well to be able to work with other people teamwork or um I would say that in order the way most of stage a more autism speech about the king and hope that other people will learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that as parents, we do have that fear and that worry, right? Because we're
Mhm.
just so nervous, like did we do enough? Um do we know enough to show our kids enough? And then they surprise us when we get it. I just feel like I'm not normal. Right. And then you
Mhm.
guys let him lead the conversation and you filled in the gaps for him. And then once he got the big picture, I wonder if like even he understood even more than you guys did. Like
Yeah.
he accepted it so quickly and so easily, y'all, so freely, so honestly. Like, oh,
Mhm.
that's me, and then
Yeah.
just carried on with life. And
Mhm.
whereas it took you guys like 8 years, just really struggling. Like,
Mhm.
oh, what does this mean? What are the what are the complications? What are the implications of this diagnosis? And for him, he accepted it just like that.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
think children are beautiful and amazing in that way, in the way that they see the world through lens so much more freely and
Mhm.
innocently than Dilla, right? So
Yeah.
Mhm.
sometimes, whenever I talk to parents, I say, you have to remove your own barriers to let your child,
Mhm.
pursue what the future in the way that they see it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know we talked about this. Something that Ying you mentioned when you reached out to me was you guys wanted to share your story so that you could kind of raise that autism awareness, even though it took you guys a little long to embrace and accept it yourself. So, what is your message for Hmong families who are on the fence about autism spectrum disorder or the diagnosis? And if there's one thing you would have done differently on your journey, what would that be?
My message is that if you have a kid who could potentially have autism, and you're suspecting that they're having autism, you should just go ahead and pursue with the medical diagnosis, because if it's the truth, you can't run away from the truth. Even if you do all these things that we did previously, the first probably like first year of our son's life to just kind of make him more normal, that's not helping. So I mean, you're not running from the truth. It's not gonna be helping your kid, and either way, so I mean, the fact that if you could just learn to accept the truth very soon and sooner in your kid's life, then the sooner you could just use that time to seek help and get the resource to help your child so that he or she could become the best of him or herself. So I think that's kind of something that we learned, and we wish that we would have done that really early on.
Yeah.
But again, at the same time, it's kind of like common for us coming from like having no background aside from that just very very negative thought about what autism is to the stage in which we're
Mm-hmm.
now. So for us, I think I just kind of wish that we have done it earlier. But
Yeah.
going back, looking back, reflecting back, I think we probably didn't make the wisest decisions in the beginning. But I think it took us a long time to get to our current point. But I think we probably make the right decisions in getting him the help that he needs. And he's doing really well in school at the moment. So we're just really happy with that.
Yeah, so one thing, yeah, cool personally, yeah, one thing like if I could do differently, thì could just go talk to somebody, like talk to doctor or just talk to the staff in Tua Shai will do that. Hey, I'm so struggle. He will do this and that. I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna kill myself, things like that. And they will help me. But I
Yeah.
still there myself. Yeah, I've been through this struggle. I just go cry myself, and then yeah, I don't tell anybody. So if I mention say, yeah, struggle, how I need more get back, probably they'll find a way to help me already.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something I would do definitely. And my message to the parents out there. So don't be scared that your kid, but your kids want autism. Yeah, I've been reading a lot of articles there, messages there, book reviews. More, some people they say, yeah, because your kid is smart, so autism isn't really a big deal. It's not a really big deal. But regardless, they got the kid and smart, she's smart, yeah, because autism is a spectrum. When your kid is smart, you're smart, yeah. So you have to kid that she's smart he or she will deserve help. Có khi someone need deserve help mà. So thì cái ba này tụi mình nhỏ the earliest, yeah, khi hành the earliest con thì tao cái ba thì này ba tụi mình nhỏ ra, cũng mua cho the coworkers ra là mua cái kia mua autism, chỉ mà là chuyện thì cái ba đó nè. Probably
Okay.
this kia like có case này à, thì là cái là by school thì là chỉ mà protected due to nó có disability à, thì là mà call by the teacher talk, call the principal talk thì hey cái tụi mình nhỏ này khi đứa anh thấy cho được tụi nó được chỉ được tụi nó poor nó tự á. Because I think because they're like more cho special ed, like scared or whatever reason it is, and the me job protected. So like kucho mo ito coworker the me suspended from school because the me accused na. But
Right.
our son ni go to school hana, but that is because ni call disparity na yeah.
Yes.
They understand that yeah, there is him. And they need to find help, understand. Even though your peers actually back home during hard time when you struggle, huh? But yeah, then chỉ muốn cho họ anybody's you aware that more autism maybe like just yeah cái tôi mình nhỏ này khi đứa thọ có need to take care of them yeah.
Right. No, you make a good point. Though you make a diagnosis there, you do have that protection, right?
Yeah.
Legally, the school has more behaviors law. They look at your IEP, they look at your behavior plan, right? So you're right. And I just to wrap this up, in the beginning, Pope first started talking, your initial understanding of autism was that you thought you didn't know autism. This is a word. If you listen to our podcast, this is a word that I always say in our Hmong community, in our Hmong culture, in our Hmong language, especially when I for autism. So, right? But and then that was also your understanding of autism in the beginning. But now he's so bright. You said his IQ is like advanced for his age. Has that changed your understanding of autism as far as how you would define it?
I think you call definition or you call thought and it changed after little came at diagnosed a psychologist, a doctor talk there what autism actually is. You call the thing yeah. It could be the thing but the whole spectrum with a bunch of characteristics yeah. So it might truly well not 100% understand about autism, we're not your expert, right? But you kind of see that yeah, autism is your immune to yeah. Let me more like the very intelligent very smart in one way, but they lack in the other way. You can
Sure.
they not consider they are double gifted because they are gifted one way, but they need help on the other way. So which have way to help the car weakness, but at the same time, so still keep the car strength or challenge or strength. Yeah, the overall yeah, then improve our weakness. According to my own point of view, the smart kid yeah, the one confidence more improve that yeah, the confidence up level up to the more strong yeah. So I think that that's the better way for all parents out there. Yeah, that the kids are just smart, like all the same thing, or they go through all the therapy and about help their kids become better.
Yes, absolutely. I hope that this conversation helps to share with other parents too that every child has their own strengths, their own gifts,
Yeah.
and not only that, we all have so much to learn from them. They can teach us a lot.
Yeah.
Something that I always want to make sure that we share is that the individuals with autism, they're so smart.
Yeah.
The only barrier is that they cannot communicate that to us in a way that makes sense for us, but that's on us to understand. That's not on them, right? So that's our job to try to understand. And thank you so much for sharing your story today, Ying and Kang. I really appreciate you being transparent and vulnerable and sharing this in hopes that if there's another family out there, Xiong-Hang, knowing that your struggles, you don't, it's very real, you if you don't talk about it, do talk about it, your child will still have autism. You seek services, don't seek services, they will still have autism, right? And so as parents, you want to give them the best chance to, like you said, to be able to learn how to advocate for them. And so thank you for sharing your story. And I hope that we can do a follow-up. I'd love to hear his journey and what happens in the next 10 years. Can you believe it? In 10 years, he'll be done with high school, So time goes by fast, and I want to give you guys kudos for really embracing it. And also, I love the story about how you guys and navigating him, guiding him during that conversation about him having autism. I think that's a beautiful story. You guys did so great, and it also shows how far you guys came too. So you should be so proud of yourself that you guys got to a place of understanding and acceptance, and you're like but still, parents and very protective, like, oh, we don't want to scare him. But then letting him lead that conversation. And then once you realize, oh, he got it, then as a family, you can kind of like shift gears and move into this next journey, right? This next chapter in your journey. So thank you guys.
Yeah.